This right here is the offer of the beginning after the end. The offer that has created the work that has now gotten an anime adaptation, and to be completely blunt, the anime community's overall reaction to the beginning after the end is not good. I think everybody has seen it, nobody likes what it's been doing, and it feels like an inferior product in every single way in comparison to the original source. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to listen to this interview, I want you guys to listen to this interview, and then we're going to talk about what was said here, and then expectations versus reality, aka reality, what the anime turned out to be. So this is an interview that was released about 2 months ago, by literally Crunchyroll themselves, so you can literally see it here. It was released by Crunchyroll 2 months ago. This is the actual offer of the beginning after the end. This is a clip from it, and then I'll show a little bit more of it here, but I want you guys to see this clip and all that of what the offer has to say about the anime, before obviously it had to release. And it gives a lot of insight into why the anime currently is like it is. So let's get right into that.
I said yes. It's like, let's make it happen. Like when I first got the offer, Crunchyroll wants to do an original co-pro of the beginning after the end, and I was like, wait, seriously?
Me? My title, me?
Well, me? But I want it out there. I want it done. I believe Crunchyroll was looking out for different studios. ACAT was one on the list. And what appealed to, I believe, Crunchyroll, TAPAS, and myself, the director knew of my story even before it was pitched.
Really? Okay.
When he and I had a small conversation online over what drew him to the beginning after the end, it was really all-encompassing, where I could tell that he not only had read the webcomic, but he had researched quite a bit into the novel as well. But with ACAT, one thing that I was reassured by was the fact that I could, be a bit more involved, have more conversations, and really work together to come up with a really strong anime.
Now, there's a little bit more to this that I'm going to play before I really talk about it, because it gives more clarity to this conversation. So let's play this clip here.
Kind of resonated with me.
Right.
And, like you said, ACAT is a rising studio. They've had several titles under their belt.
ACAT is the studio.
But another big reason why I wanted to really invest TBATE into ACAT was the fact that they wanted to put their all into it. And I wouldn't be able to have that same confidence with a bigger studio, where they have so many main IPs, like so many major titles that they have on their roster that they need to also work on.
I think this alone is enough to really get some good clarity on where everything went wrong. I think what we can really just chop this up to is someone being naive and honestly not realizing just how a smaller studio could really just take advantage. And also, most of the time when it's a smaller studio, yes, it might be a passion project, but usually it could also be for cost-saving measures. The fact that Crunchyroll and TAPAS offered ACAT, I think in general they knew what they were doing, and they knew it would probably be a cost-saving measure because it wouldn't be as big of a studio. For instance, let's say like WIT Studios or A1 Pictures, you get the point. So the fact that they even allowed this to go through, I think just showcases how this offer was taken advantage of and taken for a ride, and it's really sad to me. Now, obviously, I will personally never know the conversations they had behind closed doors, for instance, what the offer had, but I think in general, from what my viewpoint on this interview is and what I have seen from the clips and that stuff that's been said, the offer genuinely thought deep down that Studio ACAT, the studio working on the beginning after the end, was going to give their A game. They were going to give their absolute 110% on the project, and truly believe that because the director obviously read his work, read what the work was, read into the light novel, did some research, and if I was in his shoes, I might also see it in a very positive way. I'm like, yo, so if the director is into my work, then most likely it is in safe hands. But obviously, at the end of the day, there's just so much more going on than just a director reading your work. You have so many animators and people part of the staff and team that really go into the project that there needs to be more than just the director being on board. I'm not saying that's not important, but there's a lot more. But anyways, the creator of The Beginning After the End got led to believe that because of that, ACAT would be the right studio, which I think is an honest mistake. It is a very honest mistake. The thing is that as it obviously progressed, he said himself, even in this interview, that he chose ACAT because it was a smaller studio. Not because of cost-saving measures, but because the studio is so small, they're not working on a lot of projects, which means, in general, they would give their 110% focus on the said project, aka the beginning after the end. Because when it comes to other studios, aka let's say for instance A1 Pictures or something, they're working on maybe 4 or 5 projects at once, and they don't have time to spare for everything. And so there's going to be some projects that are just going to be thrown to the wolves and not do as well. And so in this case, the reason why he didn't select probably the bigger studios when he was looking at the list was because he knew that maybe they wouldn't give priority to his project. That's why he gave it to Studio ACAT, which in turn I think is the downfall where the beginning of everything came down, is because of that decision. I don't think it's necessarily completely the offer's fault, but there definitely should have been counseling. And I think in general, at least from my understanding, because this is just my own interpretation of it, there's no confirmation to, prove this, but it seems to me like Crunchyroll and TAPAS took him for a ride and just wanted to save as much money as possible, but make as much money as they could off the project without spending as much money, so to speak. And I think in general, it has been the exact opposite. It's done so much damage to the actual product, aka the beginning after the end, with doing such a very bare minimum anime adaptation, that I think that this is going to have a lingering effect, not just, let's say, on the comic, but also on the light novel as well. And I think that it's legitimately sad. It's very sad just to see an offer taken for a ride and actually done in such a disrespectful way. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not the offer. I'm not in his shoes. And all I know, for instance, maybe the offer is fine with the anime. Maybe the offer is fine with, the anime like it currently is. And if he is, okay, at the end of the day, that's his opinion, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If he likes the anime, maybe he's just happy to see it adapted. But I do think that if I was him, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to force my emotions onto him, but if I was him and I saw how it turned out, and I saw the community reaction, I would be a little bit devastated. And I think in general, it's very unfortunate because the beginning after the end, as I've already said in my 2 videos I made on it, it had the potential to be the next Soul Leveling, or at the very least stand alongside of something like Mushoku Tensei or something. But the fact that it's been done in such a poor way, it's killed pretty much any opportunity for the series to ever really blow up in popularity. Because at this point, most people are either going to jump ship, or they're just going to watch it and be like, I'll just go read the original source and that's about it. And they're not going to really care much about the anime. And I think it's just, like I said, it's damaged it. So this is really sad. This interview that came out really just paints a pretty sad picture about the whole ordeal. I just think that this is just sad, man. That's really the emotions I got from this. It's, at least we finally have confirmation on why the beginning after the end has just been done like it's done. I mean, we could kind of put the pieces together to assume this is what happened, but still, it just, what a tragedy, man. What an absolute tragedy, because this man truly is passionate about his product, he loves his series, and he wants it to be popular, and to see it done like this, I could not imagine if I was him how I would feel. I would be devastated. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you guys. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.